Okay, this completes a section of the course on getting used to creating REST services using Spring MVC. So as you can see, the controllers do get to be a little tricky. There's a lot of code there as far as how we are setting up the service calls to come in and the controller to respond. Now the framework is doing a lot in terms of the web context. That becomes tricky to test because if you think about, you just want to do a unit test on the controller, you could call that controller directly and pass in the expected object. So if you're binding to a model object, you could pass that into the controller and that'd work fine. However, you are expecting the framework to determine what method to call, whether it's a get or a post or a patch. You want it to be able to bind a JSON object to a Java object. You want all that binding to happen. So there's a lot of things that happen with the controller in terms of what the framework is doing. So that becomes very tricky to test on its own. And early days of Spring, it was very problematic. Around Spring 4, they started adding mock MVC. Spring 5, it really matured quite a bit. So mock MVC is a very mature framework that allows us to test with the servlet in a mock context. So we can go ahead and test that controller interaction. We are going to look at that in this section of the course, as well as using Mockito to mock out the backend services. So very powerful combination here with using Spring Mock MVC and Mockito. You can really target your tests and you'll have fast and efficient tests. We will dive into that in this section. Then, right now we've done all happy path stuff. Then we are going to take a look at exception handling because things do go wrong and you do need to be able to handle that gracefully. As you know, Java does have strong exception handling itself as well as does Spring. So we can utilize the framework to handle exception handling. And once we get that mastered, we are going to take a look at Spring Data JPA and start using that to access a database with Hibernate. But first, let's go in and take a look at Spring Mock MVC. This is a very important testing tool. We'll see some of the coolness of Mockito, and we'll do a deep dive into that in this section of the course.